Welcome to our weekly Governance Voice. This is a program brought to you courtesy of the Institute of Certified Secretaries, powered by Bafunde. I am your host, Obare Nyaega. This morning, we are lucky to host one of the women in governance as per this month's theme, where we are focusing on women in governance. These are women movers who have had their journey in leadership, and they are sharing with us their experiences and, of course, how they got to where they are, and mostly their I can't breathe moment. In studio this morning, we are privileged and lucky to have FCS Catherine Musakali, who is the founder of Dorion Associates. Speaking a little bit about FCS Catherine Musakali, she is indeed the first lady chair at the Institute of Certified Secretaries. She has previously worked for multinationals. She has been a chair of boards. She has served and still serves in many boards in both private and public sector. She's a co-founder, Women on Boards Network. Then she's also a pioneer in many codes of governance. So this morning, we are sharing with a rich lady who has had a lot of experience in practice. Welcome to the studio, FCS Catherine.
Thank you very much, CS Obare. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Karibu sana. And I think I want to begin your journey looking at your transitions from various institutions.
Yeah.
You, for example, worked as a company secretary and head of legal at Kenya Shell Limited for over 15 years, in charge of very many countries, Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Eritrea, Morocco, and Egypt. And then from there, you just moved to Dorion Associates. Maybe you could give us why these inspirations and just your journey to where you are, FCS.
Thank you. Thank you, CS Obare. Governance has always been the love of my life. And so I went into law because it was the route to governance for me. I love law, don't misunderstand, but I always loved governance to bits. And so even as I was working for Kenya Shell, for UAP, I always worked as head of legal and company secretary. And so the journey and veering off into corporate governance space was not difficult for me because I felt that I had a calling. And the reason I felt I had a calling, I think it was my father who was trying to mentor me all along. Because from a very early age, he made me take his notes. He made me take his minutes. He made me write records for him and keep records for him. And so for me, it was just a natural progression and a way of reaching where I wanted to go. Yes.
Amazing, amazing. And maybe I also need to come home and say that you've been a chair of the Institute of Certified Secretaries and the first lady for that matter.
I loved it.
Also, you actually went all the way to represent us at international level at CSIA. Maybe give us some of these journeys around being the chair of the institute and then now manages governance in the country.
So I owe that my chairmanship to a man called FCS Sam Ogutha. So FCS Sam Ogutha, I want to say, discovered me very early on. When I had just joined the institute, and he encouraged me into serving in committees and putting myself forward for council position. And so when it came for me to become a chair of the institute, he said to me, Catherine, you have what it takes. And I took the challenge and I plunged deep in it and campaigned with FCS Ndwachi as my campaign mate, and I then became chair. It was a time at when I was actually looking to leave UAP, Kenya Shell as well. And so after I left Kenya Shell, I threw myself into the institute. Because at that point in time, I had taken a career break, I did almost everything that a chair could do at the institute, but more because you will recall that FCS Wambua was in your position before that point in time.
Yes.
But then he left. And because he left, we had no CEO at the institute, and I was the chair. And so I probably did more than a chair ought to. But it is a time that I really loved. It is a time that really honed my skills in governance, exposed me to the necessary stakeholders. And that's why it was so easy for me when it came to writing these codes of corporate governance. It was so easy for me to step into the shoes and to move on.
Talking about codes, you have been associated with a number of codes, in fact, which have had what I may call transformational impact in terms of transitioning how governance is taken, both in private and public. Maybe you could speak to us slightly about those codes and how you got there, actually.
So the first code that we was drafted was the code of corporate governance for corporate, the CMA code of corporate governance practices for issuers of securities. At that point in time, I was chair of the institute, and the CMA wanted that code written. And so they approached the institute and asked us to nominate people to help them draft the code. They requested me to chair the steering committee for the drafting of that code. And so I chaired that committee. We wrote that code. We subjected it to stakeholder participation. Part of my team were members of the institute, but part of the team was also experts in governance drawn from across other sectors. And so that team went through the process of writing that code, and we finished. But before we finished, I had gone to see a client of mine at Tafaria in Nyahururu. And I met Simon Indimuli there, and he said the State Corporations Advisory Committee was looking for an expert to help them draft codes of corporate governance, and they were in the process of floating an international tender. And I said to him, Simon, you can't float an international tender. We have experts in this country who can write those codes for you. We are just in the process of finishing the code of corporate governance for issuers of securities. And he said, can you actually do it? I said, why not? What's so hard about drafting a code of corporate governance? And so he said, okay, if you can do it, can you give me an outline by Monday? That was Friday. Can you give me an outline of how that code will look by Monday of this week, of next week? I said, fine. And so I left Nyahururu. That weekend, I did not sleep. I just sat down and did my research and put together a broad outline of how my view of how that code would look. And I presented it to him on Monday morning. He was very pleased. He said, okay, can you then put together a team that will draft that code? And so I went through the institute, got people who could help with the drafting of that code. And we just shared out the chapters and we put together the code. And yeah, that is Mwongozo as you have it today. So that was the second one. And so we said we have a code of corporate governance for issuers of securities. We have a code of corporate governance for state corporations. What about those private entities which are neither state corporations or listed companies? And so we said, it's important for us to also put together a code of corporate governance for those institutes, for those organizations. And so we put together another code, the ICS Code of Corporate Governance for private entities in Kenya, which again I'm proud of. And then we started writing a fourth code, which was the Code of Corporate Governance for the not-for-profit sector. That code was never completed because of a number of things. Why were we writing so many codes? It is because my view was that we needed as a country to get to a point where we have similar principles driving governance in the country. And so as we were drafting these different codes for the different institutions, we were ensuring that the basic principles were the same. So that at the point in time, if ever we went the South African route, where you have one code of corporate governance, it's very easy to amalgamate them.
Wow.
Thank you.
Quite a journey. And Great commendations for that work.
Thank you.
So then now you move to co-founding the Women on Boards Network. You could tell us why the women, why not a network? And where is that? What's the vision of that? And where probably you are taking that as we move forward in the governance space?
So as we were drafting the various codes of corporate governance, we kept on saying that boards should be diverse. And when I looked at the statistics around, I realized that boards were actually not diverse. And every time I asked somebody, why don't you have women on your board? The answer would be A, where do you find them? B, even the one we have found does not speak. And so I said, I can keep repeating that question 100 times, or I can do something about it. And so I got together 3 other friends, and together we co-founded the Women on Boards Network. The aim of the Women on Boards Network is to ensure that boards in Kenya are diverse. And they are diverse not because women really want to be there, women want to serve. They are diverse because it makes business sense. Because studies across the world have shown that diverse boards make better decisions. Diverse boards outperform their peers that are not diverse. And so that is why the Women on Boards Network was founded.
All right. That's very good. Thank you very much for that. And let me go now to Dorian Associates, which talks about company secretarial or the service that you offer, especially the company secretarial service, which sometimes are also not understood very much. Maybe you could tell us what those services could be like, the value they add, and how then the Dorian supports that function. Okay.
So I founded Dorian Associates in 2013 after I left Kenya Shell. And the reason is that I always felt that I wanted to get into consultancy. And I thought the best thing would be to get into consultancy about something I love to do, something I can fall asleep doing and wake up in the morning thinking about it. And that was governance. And so Dorian Associates was founded to offer governance consultancies, service to boards, service to senior management, and company secretarial services. So company secretarial services have always been misunderstood. Sometimes people think that company secretarial services are about minute taking. Not really. Company secretaries are advisors to boards. Company secretaries are people who understand governance and are therefore able to guide boards in decision making, are able to guide boards in their roles and responsibilities. Taking minutes is just part of that job. It's not the core role, because you know what? You can get anybody else to take minutes, but you take responsibility for them. So really, the value that company secretaries bring to the board is, first, they help organize your meetings. They ensure that meetings are held in accordance with the law and your own internal documents. They ensure that you're complying with the rules and regulations around minutes. They also ensure that from a governance perspective, you are compliant. And then in addition to that, they provide guidance to the board in terms of their roles and responsibilities, hand-holding board members as they make and they exercise their fiduciary responsibilities.
So I want to shift you to the issue of now your service, where you've been a chair of boards, you've been a board member, and you are still a board member. And allow me to ask this question, as a lady in those boards, are there any unique issues around the board by the fact, because this month we are focusing on women in governance, that then may be affecting or empowering you more?
Let me say this, that a board position has no gender. A board position is simply this. It is a board position. You're called upon to exercise fiduciary responsibility over the company that you have been called to serve, on whose board you have been called to serve. But as a lady, probably one of the things that we find ourselves doing is that sometimes at the very beginning, sometimes you almost have to work harder to prove yourself. that you're capable of holding this position and exercising that fiduciary responsibility. However, once you have earned the trust of your fellow board members, it is as easy as the men find it. And for me, it is as simple as 1, understanding the company on whose board you serve, 2, understanding the business, 3, understanding the competitive environment, 4, understanding the laws around that company, 5, understanding your board members and connecting with your board members, building effective team dynamics with your board members. Once you have done that, when board meetings are called, it is understanding the purpose of the meetings, understanding what role you play, reading those board minutes, ensuring that you understand what you're being called to do, and then thinking through the decisions. And then the rest is it just falls into place.
All right.
Yeah.
So recently you were awarded, for being a pioneer and a champion in gender mainstreaming, an award, administered in South Africa. You could tell us about this, how it makes you feel. Would you encourage people to see they can participate in some of these awards?
That was an award that was run by Business Engage and 30% Club. And the award recognized me for the role that I have played in encouraging women into leadership, but also encouraging other people into leadership as well, because it was the Inclusive Business Leader Award. So it recognized that I have also encouraged young people into leadership. I mentor young people into leadership. The Women on Boards Network has a junior wing, which is focused on ages 12 to around about when you finish campus and before you get your first job. So encouraging those young ladies and men, by the way, to take up leadership positions. The award also recognized the fact that I have actively been finding board positions for women board members, that I have been connecting businesses with potential board members who are not only just women, but sometimes also men. So that is what I was recognized for.
I must say congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Right. So you've actually moved, from the multinational, gone to governance and become almost like a beacon in governance. So it's good to understand, who has been maybe instrumental in this journey, and even how this journey has gotten you where you are, and your perception of the whole governance space in this country.
Okay. So my first anchor, so to speak, was my father. He's late now. But my father got me into leadership. My father got me into governance. Because when we were growing up, my father ran our home like a parliamentary session. It was very weird, but during holidays, we would be sitting around the fire every evening, debating as parliamentarians do.
Wow. And
my father had given my brothers and sisters roles, ministerial positions. My mother was vice president and minister for home affairs. I had a sister who was minister for agriculture. I had a brother who was minister for education, So they had different roles, ministries. And during those evening fire chats, we would each be reporting about the areas of responsibility, So the Minister for Finance did not give me money, so I was not able to pay them, that type of thing.
Yes.
And for me, because I was very young, my father said to me, you will be the one taking minutes. So I would sit in those parliamentary sessions, taking the minutes, and so it really honed my skills in governance and really made me interested in governance. So my father was my first anchor in this whole journey of governance. My mother, the way she ran her home up to now, the way she runs her home makes you just want to, instill order everywhere you go. And so that is my second anchor in governance. Of course, my family, my brothers, my sisters, having grown up in the same system, always encouraged me in that regard. But when I started working, I met a mentor very early on in my career. And he was somebody based out of the UK. But he was a lawyer as well. He is a lawyer as well, as a governance professional. And he has been instrumental in guiding my leadership journey, in guiding my governance journey. In addition to that, I had another mentor, Patrick Obare, who many of you will know, who was my boss here at Kenya Shell. But he also guided my leadership journey quite a bit. So I owe my leadership journey to those people that I have mentioned.
Wow. Thank you. So you also equally mentor other people?
I do mentor other people, some formally, some informally, you know. So, and it's something I love to do. I look at mentorship as an opportunity to guide people in the right direction. It may not be the formal mentorship where you sit down with somebody and say, hey, what is it that is eating you today? How can you go about it? It is the fact that you are available for people to call on you when they need to call on you, and you point them in the right direction. I find joy when I point somebody in the right direction, give them guidance. And so I'm always open to mentorships.
All right. So FCS, in the midst of all these things that you are doing, how do you balance this off with your family? We'll talk about work life. And all. Do you have a break, by the way?
I have me time. Believe you me, I have me time.
Okay.
But, you know, the beauty about choosing a career that you love, you enjoy to bits, is sometimes you don't feel the fatigue. And you have to constantly remind yourself that you need to slow down. Okay? So I have time for my family. I have a spouse. And I have 3 children. Now, the beauty about me time as well is that my spouse is very supportive. We agreed very early on, homework, whatever, because I'm the harsh one. He does homework with the kids. But I'm available to the kids. I'm available to them when I need to be available. I am available for family breaks. We intentionally take family breaks. And we go away and we take a break. A few months ago when you were talking to me, I was away in Bungoma for 2 months doing something else that I love doing, farming.
All right.
So I find time to relax.
Is it?
Thank you.
I appreciate that. You know, it took me a long time to have you in studio, but at least I have you now.
Thank you. So
I must ask you this.
Yes.
You know, in your journey, of course, you have those I can't breathe moments, you know, when you feel somebody has really put his knee on your neck and you want to, you know, you don't know what to do. Maybe you could share a few of those moments as we...
So first and foremost, it is just for each and everyone to appreciate that those I can't breathe moments are moments that should propel you to even become greater. It is like something chasing you, and you get the adrenaline to run even faster. So the second thing is, those I cannot breathe moments you cannot avoid them. And the only way you can avoid them is if you choose a lazy life, if you choose a life that you don't challenge yourself. If you don't face challenges, you never grow. And so I take I cannot breathe moments as an opportunity for me to grow as a leader, for me to grow in business, whatever. So those moments are always there. And I can't tell you, there are many, but you fight them, and you fight them with a smile. You fight them with all the strength that you have. So they are indeed there.
Right. So generally in your life learnings and experiences, are there things you want to share with us?
One of the things that I would like to share is this: values. Having values as a leader, so that people associate you with certain values, that you are consistent, you are predictable, is very important to me. The second thing is hard work. Nothing good comes easy. You have to work for it. You have to put in your all. You have to keep pushing yourself. You have to keep challenging yourself and setting higher goals. You achieve this one, you go for a higher goal.
Mm-hmm.
So hard work and values are two things that I would always tell other people. Then, of course, the higher being. The higher being. There is always somebody up there, higher than you, looking down at you, knowing what you're going through. Reach to that being and ask for guidance.
Right.
Thank you.
So if I jog your mind back and ask you that if you were to speak to the Catherine, 21-year-old, what could you talk to her about?
One of the things that I would say to young Catherine, relax a bit. Life is not so hard. Relax a bit. So that is one thing that I would say to young Catherine. I would also say to young Catherine, access mentorship much earlier. So don't wait until you're looking for a job or you're working to get mentorship. Get a mentor, get a coach, get a sponsor as early as possible. And that's the reason why with my kids, I try to get them mentorship even at this age before they get into working life. So those are the things that I would tell young Catherine.
All right. So as you went down, I've request you to look at the camera there and give you a normal advice and words of wisdom to younger people, especially girls and ladies who want to be like you when they grow up. You can talk to them now.
I would say that each and every one of us has been put on this earth for a purpose. Find your purpose. Find that purpose that makes you tick, that makes you happy, that makes you energized. Because once you find that purpose, the rest is easy. The rest falls into place. Define yourself. Step into your power. I always tell people, step into your power. Reach into that inner power that each and every one of us have. And ensure that every day you're living that power. Live your purpose, live your power. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That was FCS Catherine Musakali, who is the founder of Dorian Associates, talking to us about her journey and her I Can't Breathe moment. That was the weekly governance voice, brought to you every Friday between 7:30 and 8, courtesy of the Institute of Certified Secretaries, powered by Bafunde. I am your host, Obare Nyaega. Until next week, see you.
Thank you.